Hi everyone, it's Jigokuren. I had a little free time today, so I just felt like recording another work by Nichiren, a shorter one. This one is one of my personal favorites. It's called the Treatise on All Phenomena as Ultimate Reality. The original Japanese name is Shouho Jiso Sho, and it is a letter that he wrote while in exile on the island of Sado to another exiled priest of the Tendai sect. So this would have been a man who was in a very similar situation to Nichiren's. The man in question is referred to in the letter as Seirenbo, and he's kind of a mysterious figure in Nichiren's history. We don't really know a lot about him other than that he befriended Nichiren on Sado, and the two exchanged letters like this one. One of the mysteries around him is the reason for his exile, which we really don't know. It may have been a product of the infighting within the Tendai school at the time, or it could have been political. We just really don't know for sure. The other mystery around him is what happened after he was recalled back to the mainland. So this would have been a little bit after Nichiren himself was recalled. There is a legend around him returning to Kyoto and founding a temple, but the evidence around this seems a little shaky. There are also theories about Seirenbo being a pseudonym for another one of Nichiren's close followers, but once again, we don't really have the evidence to back this up. It's quite possible that after he returned to the mainland, he just kind of disappeared from the historical record and maybe just acted in silence, or he could have just, died soon after his recall. We just don't know. As for the actual contents of this letter, this is one of the works from Nichiren that's heavily saturated with what is called Hongaku philosophy, or original enlightenment, and because of this, I would consider this a more advanced work than the ones I've read before. This would have been a framework that was popular in the Tendai school during Nichiren's time, and it's quite likely that his education was heavily steeped in this. Basically, the gist of it is that it takes all of reality as originally enlightened, largely using what's called the original gate of the Lotus Sutra. That's a section in the middle which includes chapters like the Bodhisattvas emerging from the earth chapter or the lifespan of the Tathagata chapter. These were chapters that were heavily privileged by Nichiren himself in his analytical framework, and this is evident in many of his other works. However, how exactly into Hongaku thought Nichiren himself was is a subject with a bit of controversy. As you'll hear in the translator's notes at the end of this reading, this particular work does not have an extant original copy in Nichiren's handwriting, so it's sometimes lumped in under what you may call works of questionable authorship by scholars, and many of the other works in this category are also very heavy with Hongaku philosophy. So at least in the scholarly realm, there's some conversation around this. But it seems that within the actual traditional Buddhist schools, this work is considered legitimate. In fact, the translation I'm reading here is from the collection that Nichiren Shu themselves use. It was translated by a man named Kyotsu Hori and included in an anthology entitled Writings of Nichiren Shonin. If you're looking at physical copies, this would be included in Volume 4. If you've listened to my other readings, that would be The Opening of the Eyes, Risho Ankokuron, and The Selection of the Time, you may remember that I read those from the Nichiren Shoshu translations, which were published throughout the 1980s. And while I like both translations, there are some noticeable differences between them. In my opinion, the Nichiren Shoshu ones were a bit wordier. They had some kind of antiquated vocabulary that made them probably a bit more challenging for modern readers. Kyotsu Hori's translations, on the other hand, seem a bit simpler, and they also lack a lot of the Japanese vocabulary used in the Nichiren Shoshu translations, which you may prefer or dislike, depending on your personal taste. I personally didn't mind the Japanese vocabulary in the Shoshu translations, but I think this works as well. It does, however, make it a bit more challenging to read out loud. For instance, instead of Ichinen Sanzen, you would have to say 3,000 existences contained in one thought. Similarly, different figures like the Bodhisattva Jogyo are translated using their English names, so he would be Superior Practice Bodhisattva. I think if you're someone who wants to study Nichiren Buddhism seriously, it might be worth checking out some of the other translations just so you can kind of familiarize yourself with the Japanese vocabulary. But for the casual reader, I think this translation does the job quite well. With that said, please enjoy. Treatise on All Phenomena as Ultimate Reality by Nichiren. 1. The meaning of all phenomena as ultimate reality. Question. In the second chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Fascicle 1, Expedience, it is preached, quote, All phenomena as ultimate reality means the nature in which all existing things, their appearances, natures, entities, powers, activities, primary causes, environmental causes, effects, rewards, and retributions, all from the beginning to end are united in one." End quote. What does this mean? Answer. It means that the whole world is divided into 10 realms from hell at the bottom and Buddhas at the top, and everything in the 10 realms, without exception, is the manifestation of the Lotus Sutra. Wherever there are dependent rewards such as plants, trees, and land, there exist living beings known as principal rewards. Therefore, Grandmaster Miao Lei comments in the 10th fascicle of the annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, quote, "Both principal and dependent rewards always preach the Lotus Sutra." End quote. He also comments in his Diamond Scalpel, quote, "The ultimate reality is the truth throughout all things of the universe, and all things consist of 10 reality aspects such as appearance, nature, entity, etc. The 10 reality aspects are equipped in each of the 10 realms, consisting of principal and dependent rewards." End quote. Furthermore, he comments, quote, "Dependent and principal rewards of Avicii Hell all exist in the mind of the Buddha, and both dependent and principal rewards of the Buddha exist in one thought of the ordinary person." End quote. Seeing these annotations, there is no doubt about 3,000 conditions existing in one thought. Therefore, the appearance of the universe is not different from the 5 characters Myo, Ho, Ren, Ge, and Kyo. As for Shakyamuni Buddha in the Buddha of Many Treasures, when functions of the 5 characters save people, they appear as 2 Buddhas nodding at each other, as they did when the Beholding the Stupa of Treasures chapter was expounded. 2. Bodhisattva disciples of the original Buddha. There is no one but I, Nichiren, who has advocated such doctrines. Tiantai, Miao Lei, and Dengyo realized these truths but did not voice them. They kept them deep in their minds because they had not received the transmission of the Dharma from the Buddha. The time had not matured yet, and they had not been disciples of the original Buddha. Except for bodhisattvas such as Superior Practice and Limitless Practice, highest-ranking leaders of the bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth, no one is allowed to appear in the 500-year period at the beginning of the latter age of degeneration and spread the 5 characters Myo, Ho, Ren, Ge, and Kyo, which are the substance of all existing things. Furthermore, no one else can create the most venerable one, Honzon, with the 2 Buddhas, Shakyamuni and Many Treasures, seated side by side inside the Stupa of Treasures. This is because these, Daimoku and Honzon, are the gist of the actual 3,000 existences contained in one thought doctrine expounded in the duration of the life of the Tathagata chapter in the essential section of the Lotus Sutra, and it should be spread by bodhisattva disciples of the original Buddha. 3. All phenomena as ultimate reality in the Lotus Sutra. Therefore, the 2 Buddhas, Shakyamuni and Many Treasures, are functions of the substance, that is, the 5 characters Myo, Ho, Ren, Ge, and Kyo. In other words, the Lotus Sutra is the original Buddha. The duration of the life of the Tathagata chapter of the Lotus Sutra mentions the Buddha's, quote, "hidden core and divine powers," end quote. The hidden core of the world-honored one refers to the substance of the original Buddha possessing the threefold body, Dharma body, reward body, and accommodative body. The divine powers means the 3 bodies of manifested Buddhas as functions of the original Buddha, or substance. Also, we unenlightened people can be fundamentally the original Buddha with 3 bodies of the substance, and the Buddha's 3 bodies are functions and manifestations of the original Buddha. If this is true, although we believed that Shakyamuni Buddha provided the 3 virtues of master, teacher, and parent to us, instead it was we unenlightened people who provided the 3 virtues to the Buddha. The reason why we say this is based on Tiantai's interpretation of the 9th fascicle of the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra that, quote, "Tathagata, or thus come one, is a common term for all Buddhas in 10 directions in the past, present, and future. 2 Buddhas, true body and accommodative body, 3 Buddhas, Dharma body, reward body, and accommodative body, the original Buddha, and Buddhas in manifestation," end quote. In this annotation, the original Buddha refers to unenlightened people, and Buddhas in manifestation means Buddhas. However, there's a difference between unenlightened people and enlightened Buddhas, and those people are unaware that both people and Buddhas originally possess the same threefold bodies, either as substance or function. Tiantai, therefore, makes clear that all things and phenomena in the 10 realms are manifestations of the ultimate reality. Since ultimate reality is another name of the Lotus Sutra, what he states is that all things and phenomena are equal to the Lotus Sutra. It is a reality of a hell that shows hell's appearance. If its appearance turns into that of the realm of hungry spirits, it is no longer a hell. All phenomena as ultimate reality means that Buddhas show a Buddha's appearance, unenlightened people show their appearance, and the true appearance of all things is the truth of the Lotus Sutra. Tiantai also explains, quote, "The profound doctrine of all phenomena as ultimate reality is the Lotus Sutra that exists originally and always," end quote. This annotation means that the deep doctrine of ultimate reality expounded in the theoretical section of the Lotus Sutra is called, in the essential section, the Sutra of the Lotus Flower of the Wonderful Dharma, which exists originally and always. This interpretation is not easy to understand, so please spare no effort in contemplating this. 4. Messenger of the World-Honored One. Born in the latter age of the generation, I, Nichiren, was the first to spread the outline of the wonderful Dharma reserved for Bodhisattva's superior practice. I was also the first to inscribe the great mandala with Shakyamuni Buddha appearing in the duration of the life of the Tathagata chapter of the essential section of the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha of many treasures who emerged in the Beholding the Stupa of Treasures chapter of the theoretical section, and the Bodhisattvas from the earth in the Appearance of the Bodhisattvas from Underground chapter. These are very meaningful to me, and those who hate me cannot affect my enlightenment no matter what power they hold. Therefore, the transgression of exiling me to this remote island will never disappear for incalculable eons. Referring to this, the Buddha preaches in the parable chapter, quote, "If I were to describe its sin, I would exhaust a kalpa without fully explaining its magnitude," end quote. On the other hand, the merit of your offerings to me and becoming my follower cannot be fully comprehended even with the Buddha's wisdom. Therefore, it is preached in the previous Life of Medicine King Bodhisattva chapter, quote, "Even the wisdom of the Buddha cannot measure the extent of such merit," end quote. I, Nichiren, am the lone herald of the Bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth. I may even be one of them. If I am counted as one of the Bodhisattvas that emerged from the earth, my disciples and followers too are among the ranks of those Bodhisattvas from the earth, are they not? The teacher of the Dharma chapter states, quote, "If someone expounds even a phrase of the Lotus Sutra even to one person in secret, then you should know that such person is my messenger, dispatched by me and carries out my work," end quote. This refers to none other than us. 5. Bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth. When people are praised by others, they are determined to accomplish anything no matter how difficult it may be. Such determination stems from words of praise. Those who are born in the latter age of the generation and try to spread the Lotus Sutra will encounter 3 kinds of enemies who will exile and even kill them. However, Shakyamuni Buddha will shelter in his robe those who endure difficulties in spreading the Dharma, and protective deities will serve those who practice the Dharma, lending shoulders of support or carrying them on their backs. Praised as mighty roots of goodness and the great leaders of all people by Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of many treasures, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout the universe, the 7 generations of heavenly gods and 5 generations of terrestrial gods, Hariti and the 10 female Rakshasa demons, the 4 great heavenly kings, king of the Brahma heaven, Indra, King Yama, the gods of water, wind, mountains, and oceans, the great Sun Buddha, universal sage Bodhisattva, Manjushri, the sun god and moon god. They were able to endure infinite difficulties. It is the common person who, when praised, is determined to such an extent that there is no regard for personal loss, and, when accused, acts without knowing personal defeat. Whatever happens to you, have firm faith and keep yourself as one who practices the Lotus Sutra, and join the ranks of my followers. As long as you stay united with me, you will be one of the Bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth. And if you are determined to be a Bodhisattva of the earth, there is no doubt that you have been a disciple of the original Shakyamuni Buddha from the remotest past. The Appearance of Bodhisattvas from Underground chapter states, quote, "I have been teaching and converting these people ever since the eternal past," end quote. Those who spread the 5 characters Myo, Ho, Ren, Ge, and Kyo in the latter age of the generation should not make a distinction between males and females, for it would be difficult to chant the Daimoku unless they were all Bodhisattvas of the earth. 6. Establish your fame as one who practices the Lotus Sutra. At first, only I, Nichiren, started chanting the Daimoku, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. But then 2, 3, then 100 people gradually began chanting it. This will continue in the future. Isn't this what emerging from the earth means? When an innumerable number of people emerge from the earth and this wonderful Dharma spreads extensively, there will be no mistake. Just as a flying arrow never misses the earth, Japan will be filled with people chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. You should therefore establish your fame as one who practices the Lotus Sutra and devote your life to it. When Shakyamuni Buddha and the Buddha of many treasures and many other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas from all over the universe gathered at the assembly up in the sky above Mount Sacred Eagle, what Shakyamuni Buddha and the Buddha of many treasures agreed upon was solely for the sake of perpetually spreading the Lotus Sutra in the latter age of the generation. When the Buddha of many treasures, who had already been inside the stupa, shared his seat with Shakyamuni Buddha, what was decided by the two Buddhas, as generals standing under the flag of Myoho Renge Kyo, was nothing but the truth. It was a meeting to help the living beings achieve Buddhahood. Although I was not at the scene, I have no doubt about it when I read the sutra. However, I may have been there, but I don't remember it simply because I'm an ordinary man. And yet I can see clearly in the present time that I am one who practices the Lotus Sutra. Moreover, it is determined that I will surely visit the Buddha's place of practice in the future. Considering the past according to these things, I may have been at the assembly up in the sky because the past, present, and future are not separated from one another. 7. Nichiren does not cry, but tears keep falling. Thus thinking of my situation, I am an exiled man, but my joy is immeasurable. I shed tears of joy, but I also shed tears of sorrow. Tears are common to good and evil. As 1,000 arhats shed tears while remembering the Buddha, the Bodhisattva Manjushri chanted Myoho Renge Kyo. One of the 1,000 arhats, Venerable Ananda, replied, "Thus have I heard." The other 999 arhats also wept, and using tears as water for ink, wrote, "Thus have I heard," and Myoho Renge Kyo above it. Now I, Nichiren, am shedding tears in the same manner. I find myself in such a circumstance because I spread the 5 or 7 character daimoku of Myoho Renge Kyo. It was because I had heard that Shakyamuni Buddha and the Buddha of many treasures had prepared the Lotus Sutra for the sake of Japan and all people in the future. Tears keep falling when I think of the current unbearable hardships, but I cannot stop tears of joy when I think of obtaining Buddhahood in the future. Birds and insects chirp without shedding tears. I, Nichiren, do not cry, but tears keep falling. These tears are shed not for worldly matters, but solely for the sake of the Lotus Sutra. Therefore, they could be called tears of nectar. It is said in the Nirvana Sutra, quote, "When people part from their parents, brothers, wives, children, or relatives, they shed more tears than the water of 4 great oceans, but not a teardrop for the Buddha's Dharma." End quote. Becoming one who practices the Lotus Sutra is brought about by a long causal relationship from the past. Even among trees and plants, some of them are carved into Buddhist statues because of their long karmic relationship. Some trees are carved into provisional Buddhas, not true ones, due to the long causal relationship from past existences. 8. Practice and learning. I have written doctrines important to me in this letter, so please read carefully and take the time to understand them well. Have faith in the great Mandala Gohonzon, the most venerable one in the entire world. Earnestly endeavor to strengthen your faith so that you may be blessed with the protective powers of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of many treasures, and Buddhas in manifestation throughout the universe. Strive to carry out the 2 ways of practice and learning. Without practice and learning, Buddhism will cease to exist. Endeavor yourself and cause others to practice these 2 ways of practice and learning, which stem from faith. If possible, please spread even a word or phrase of the sutra to others. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Sincerely yours, Nichiren. On the 17th day of the 5th month. P.S. I have written previously about doctrines that have been transmitted to me. Especially in this letter, I wrote of matters of utmost importance. Is this due to an inexplicable bond between you and me in the past? Or are we avatars of the 4 bodhisattvas such as superior practice, leaders of bodhisattvas as many as 60,000 times the number of sands of the Ganges River? There must be a profound reason. I handed over to you all the doctrines important to my life. I might be a follower of those numerous bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth. This is because I chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, trying to lead men and women of Japan to Buddhahood. Is it not stated in the Lotus Sutra, the appearance of bodhisattvas from underground chapter? The first was called superior practice. He was a guiding teacher. Because of your strong karmic relationship in past existences, you have become my disciple. Please be very careful dealing with this letter. I wrote the doctrines that I have awakened myself. I will stop writing now. Reply to Sairenbo. Translator's note. The Shoho Jiso Sho is a letter sent to Tendai priest Sairenbo, though the original manuscript has not been found. There are a number of different opinions and many questions regarding Sairenbo and his biography. In this letter, Nichiren Shonin speaks of the doctrine of all phenomena as ultimate reality, and relates it to the doctrine of 3,000 existences contained in one thought, which he considered most important. Finally, he reveals the reality of all phenomena is nothing but Myoho Renge Kyo, the Lotus Sutra. Taking into account that Sairenbo belonged to the Tendai sect, Nichiren discusses Tientai's point of view concerning the all phenomena as ultimate reality doctrine, as well as its relationship with the doctrine of 3,000 existences contained in one thought based on the essential section of the Lotus Sutra. Then, he explains that those who spread the Lotus Sutra in the latter age of degeneration are the bodhisattvas who emerge from the earth, and urges him to join the rank of Nichiren's followers by declaring, "If you agree with me, you are a bodhisattva from the earth." In doctrine as well as faith and training, this is one of the extremely important writings of Nichiren Shonin. In brief, Nichiren encourages Sirenbo to leave everything to the Lotus Sutra and endeavor to strengthen his faith and training by telling him, "You should establish your fame as one who practices the Lotus Sutra and dedicate your whole life to it." In the postscript, Nichiren reveals that he has written about, quote, "the doctrines that I, Nichiren, have awakened myself," end quote. End of Treatise on All Phenomena as Ultimate Reality.